it is very positive. Quoting side, a customer comes back, they're always looking for a cheaper price, hoping to get it faster. And if you review through the time tracking and can see issues that arose, as if we have a suggestion from a machinist, we could usually be able to figure out how do we bring that cost down,
Hmm.
or did did we have to remake this part more than once because a tool broke or anything along those lines? So just as much as the process improvement notes, really the time tracking notes is the most beneficial. That's where a lot of information gets put in of why it might have taken somebody longer than we had initially quoted, or how we can improve it in the future and reduce some of our cycle time.
Welcome to the Manufacturing Transformed podcast, where we dive deep into the world of manufacturing and uncover the transformational journeys of companies that are powered by ProShop. Get ready to explore the stories behind the machines, the people, and the innovations shaping the future of this industry. Welcome to Manufacturing Transformed. Real shops, real stories. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. I got to sit down with someone I've known for close to 9 years now, Cody Yager of Flying S, for a really fun conversation. So this is a shop that signed up with us in the latter part of 2017. So we're getting close to 10 years now. And they were, I think I looked back, maybe around 50 people at the time. No, 40, yeah, 40 employees or so maybe at the time. Um, a pretty nice facility. They'd been in business, I don't know, 8 or 10 years prior to that, started by Dave and Penny. True visionaries, clearly, given the growth they've seen. They're now more than triple that size in employees, 5 or 6 times more in floor space. They have, I think Cody said, 285,000 square feet, and they're already thinking about expanding again, literally out in the middle of cornfields in southern Indiana. Just very, very cool to have a business of that scale and caliber, doing very high-end work, in a super rural part of the country. So it was a fun conversation. We get into, of course, what it was like to get rid of all the paper on the shop floor, have much tighter control of drawings, make sure you don't have old revisions lying around. We talk about how they use it for training, with now close to 170 people, uh, keeping everyone trained both for compliance reasons for AS9100, as well as just, making parts. This is how we run our business reasons. They've really leaned into that in the last couple of years. And then, of course, in the last part of the episode, we talk about CMMC. They are close to having their certification in the next few months, and some of the features we offer are a key part of making sure that access control is tight, and they're doing the things they need to meet compliance. So it was a great conversation, and it's just neat to see a company that's grown so much during the tenure that we've worked with them to support them. And I don't know, that's just, to me, it's like kind of full circle. It's what it's all about, having this business and supporting just really cool companies doing amazing things out in the world. So it was a fun conversation. Hope you enjoy it. Let's go meet Cody. Cody, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I have been just in total awe of what you guys at Flying S have been doing ever since we got introduced in 2017. Not in the 90s, not in the 90s, not in the in the last century, but it's been a long time. We're next year will be 10 years. So
Yes.
and you guys have grown immensely, even more than I realized. You were just telling me before we hit record. So let's start by just introducing Flying S, what you guys do, what your business looks like today, and we'll go back to kind of the origin of it.
Yeah. So we're based in Southern Illinois, Palestine, kind of right up against Indiana. And the owners, Dave and Penny Shaw. Dave went to U of I, got his aerospace engineering degree, and kind of went off, worked for a few other companies before coming back and taking over the family farm here in rural Illinois.
Mhm.
And he started kind of doing some consulting work for a few of his contacts, and eventually turned into flying S. So him and Penny built a hangar house home, and actually worked out of their below section that was a hangar. They moved the airplane out of it, put in some CNC machines, and started doing some work for some clients, and that just ballooned very, very quickly. Put up the first building in 2008, I believe. Before it was really finished, they were starting to expand
Mhm.
again, and it seems about like every year since then we built on an expansion. Um,
And you were saying 285,000 square feet now?
I think that's pretty accurate, depending on what square footage you count. We're building on a new shipping dock, and I don't know if that's included in that square footage or exactly what it is, but
Right,
it's right around 285. I would say about half of that's climate controlled or so, for a
right.
clean room.
Totally awesome. And you sort of just they just take a little more cornfield off the back and put in floor space because it
Uh,
truly is in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
it
it's you got
is.
to drive a long time through
Uh,
cornfields to get there.
if we need more space, we just build another wing on out to the side, and usually expand outward instead of upward.
Yep,
It's a luxury around here that there's all the land that you'd
all the
need to
land you
build
could
on.
ever need. Yeah, that is true. A lot of our clients are in city areas and they just do not have space to expand.
Yeah.
So I was just talking to one the other day, and they're thinking about building mezzanines. They have a 20-foot ceiling, and they're like, "Let's just build mezzanines over everything and move everything that's not a CNC machine up to the top floor." And just, boy, what a hassle compared to
That
just
is what
laying down more concrete.
we had to do that on our last expansion. We ended up putting in a second floor after the fact, just to
Okay.
give us a little bit of more floor space without expanding. And so then our new expansion will also have a second floor to it, mainly for just overflow storage
Hmm.
area, but it definitely gives a bit more space.
Okay. And about 140 or 50 people or something there. Is that right?
Yes, interns, kind of all the staff, I think we're are right around the 170 mark for the summer.
Oh, nice.
We've
Okay.
brought on a lot of interns this year, around 20 or so. So
Oh, awesome.
that's
Let's.
been pretty fortunate for kind of small
Yeah.
town area to be able to bring in that many new faces, and kind of teach them and help them grow.
Well, I definitely want to put a pin in that and come back to that because workforce development is the number one issue in almost every shop. So
It
if
is.
we can glean a little bit about how you're making that so successful, we want to know. Um, and then tell us about the types of work. Obviously, you do machining, but you guys have a very large composites lab and make full things.
We
I'll let you describe it.
primarily, stick to aerospace. We'll occasionally help out a customer, here and there outside of the aerospace industry, but that's our bread and butter. We're pretty well half and half, CNC machine shop versus, composite, layup and assembly. So everything is under one roof, which is very nice. We uh, do our own layup tooling.
Hmm.
Goes right into layup our fixtures. Everything is kind of under one roof, really. And some projects expand over, every area of the company, and some are just layup build to print. Some are just machine build to print. So it just
Mm-hmm.
depends on the client and project that we're working on.
Okay. And what kind of can you share what kind of applications these things are going into beyond
Most
general aerospace?
most of it we can't really speak too detailed on. Some space applications, a lot of satellites,
Oh, wow, cool.
solar array systems. We don't really get into the general aviation, more of the
Mhm,
prototype kind of proof of concept.
mhm.
We helped, Boom Supersonic with their baby boom
Oh,
proof of
super
concept
cool.
airplane, and
Super cool.
several similar projects along those lines. But the space industry is booming right now at the moment. I'll say that for sure.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So the roads leading into Flying S are probably trafficked much more frequently these days from people out of state coming to visit.
They are. We still stick to our roots. We try to hire as locally as we can. We
Mhm,
know guys that usually move away for a job. They don't stick around too long, especially in the middle of nowhere. So if you were
mhm.
born and raised in the middle of nowhere, that's kind of where you want to stay.
Yeah,
And so we've hired a few, from a couple hours away, but primarily everybody's within about a 1 hour radius. Um,
okay.
and that helps with the retention, holding guys
Yeah,
here. They
sure.
like being in this type of, environment, and, the roads around here, if you're on the road coming by here, it's usually to get to work. You're not
Yeah.
just traveling.
Or it's a
Um
customer coming to visit for a site visit
Right.
and
We
a
have
meeting.
to, inform our customers, "You're not lost. GPS will get you there. Just keep going through the cornfields."
You'd have to talk to Google and Apple and say, "Make sure this is where you're directing them because this is where we're located." I can imagine the satellite view now is just, like, what year did they take that image and how big is the facility?
Yeah,
So,
for
that's
sure.
very cool. Before we move into the ProShop stuff, tell us more about your apprenticeship program. Is it through high schools? Is it through colleges? Yeah, what are you doing there?
It's, a little bit of everything. We actually have a junior in high school, right now interning with us.
Mhm,
We also take on some high school, after work programs, some Friday afternoons come in and help,
mhm,
occasionally. That's The younger they are, they're obviously more inexperienced, but, those are usually the ones that wanna work the hardest and learn,
mhm,
as much as they can while they're here.
mhm.
And then we take on several, college interns throughout the summer. We've got a college around here that kind of does trimesters as well, so we'll get some not just summer help. They'll start a little bit earlier and
Mhm.
finish sooner. And we enjoy having the, interns that have already graduated kind of working into a job by the end of the summer.
Mhm.
Those usually stick around, quite a bit for us.
That's super cool. That's super
Um,
cool.
we do a lot of, kind of outreach. We'll bring colleges actually to Flying S, let
Oh,
them
really?
kind of bring in the community, show them there is manufacturing in the area, and it's not what a lot of people see as manufacturing.
Absolutely.
They don't even know that we exist. Just that's by design. A lot of things that we do
Mhm,
here we can't really speak about. So when we bring the public in, it's a big deal. We have to shut off a lot of our projects, isolate them to an area, but still be able to show them what a CNC machinist does, what composite techs are responsible for, some of the cool projects that they know very well about, but they didn't know it was made
mhm.
in their backyard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we'll have a kind of college outreach program. Usually every other year, we'll try to do something along those lines, and that's been very beneficial with our intern and new hire program.
Are those, like, mechanical engineering programs or other types as well?
Mechanical and aerospace is typically what they're tailored towards, but
Okay.
any engineering college, and then our local Vincent University has a very good CNC program,
Oh,
so that
fantastic.
they come as well.
Nice. Okay. Um, that's awesome. That's very cool. And I'm imagining then those interns at a reasonable rate turn into longer term employees.
Most seem to, yes. They
Most. That's
usually
good.
come here, and they want to come back, the next summer if they're available, and the next summer. We like that, but it's also usually beneficial to work, a few different, companies as you're in college and really experience some things, and then come back to us after graduation. And and bring some of that experience.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool. Now you were there when, we met in 2017 or so. How long have you been there?
I came on board November of 2015, so just over
Mm,
10 years now.
okay. Very good. And what is your actual role? I think it just says engineer on LinkedIn.
So, I'm actually a civil engineer by trade. I went
Oh,
to
cool.
University of Illinois with the civil department and traveled a little bit. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she of course got homesick like most people do and wanted to move back home. And so I applied here thinking they're not going to be interested in a civil guy at an aerospace company, and got a call from Penny a few days later, and she said, you know, we're looking for talent. It doesn't really matter what the degree says. So came in for an
Mhm.
interview and got hired a few weeks later and started out really kind of helping develop the lack of the ERP system. Really, we
Mhm.
had a large production order, and our guys in the shop, it was kind of almost a free for all what part you wanted to build for the day and how
Mhm.
many needed to be built and who could actually build what parts. And so one of the very first things I was tasked with was taking Excel and creating an ERP system with
Okay.
it. So we
Lots of
had
visual basic macros and
yeah,
fancy stuff like that.
yes, we had, schedules, trainings, everything within Excel really, and you can imagine how quickly we outgrew that, um, and
It's a
started looking into an Access database, something along those lines that we could still create internally, and actually started, developing our own program through C#
Oh, very
and
cool.
kind of creating all of that. And that was at the same time, I believe Peter met with you at Mastercam show
Mhm. Mhm.
in May of 2017, and he came back and he said, This is what we got to go with. This is the program that will kind of change everything for us." And so that was kind of when we started chatting.
So were you actually learning C# sharp and doing coding yourself, or did you hire developers for
I,
that?
uh, we hired one guy, to kind of help me get the database set up and linked, and then I did all of the, coding after that, and I had
Okay.
0 coding experience before I started working here.
Okay.
So, it was an adventure. It was 6 months of just straight coding.
Right. Wild. Interesting experience. Okay. So, yeah, good thing we met at the Mastercam event. And yeah, I still remember going and visiting for the very first time and feeling like, yeah, am I on the right track? And sure enough, it kind of opens up. Beautiful area. I mean, absolutely stunning with the little pond and picnic tables and the house over there and the building, which is now 5 times bigger than it was. So, um, yeah, very cool stuff. Um, so after you guys, sort of change course, just tell me a little bit about that period, as you started getting, I don't know, more organized with work orders and, and the drawings and which parts you should be making today and all those kinds of things. Just maybe some of the changes that happened after that.
Yeah, so, being composite heavy, that was some of the, features you guys didn't quite offer tailored
Yep.
to that side of the business, and so it was very quickly implemented into our CNC shop, and changed rapidly what they knew that they were gonna be working on, how we scheduled, kind of their jobs. We had paper travelers that they would come in and, the engineer was very heavily into, "This is what you're gonna be, working on today," and there's kind of the whole process to it versus now being able to develop, the process within ProShop, coming up with the operations and kind of sending out to the shop manager to better, kind of schedule each machine.
Mm-hmm.
We are kind of the shop that will duplicate 3 or 4 of the exact same machines, so we might have
Mm-hmm.
one sitting there idle ability to jump on it with one work order versus kind of waiting until all of those are complete. So scheduling is difficult when you don't, you're not just going from one project to the next and priority, but it allows us to pivot very quickly.
Hmm.
And that's much simpler with ProShop when we can prioritize what our customer due dates are. Everybody
Right.
has that visibility versus a paper traveler and kind of word of mouth of this is now the top job that you should be working on.
Hmm. And do you have a lot of, you mentioned making your own tooling. So you must have just customer jobs that you're machining and sending to them. And then you have internal jobs where you're building a mold or you're building some fixturing that's going to go to support the composite side.
Correct. So in the earlier days, kind of our main UAV project that we worked on, we saw the machine shop as a supplier to the composite side. It
Mm,
was building a lot of tooling, a lot of the internal metallics. And as we grew, our machine shop started taking on their own business, a lot of build to print metallic parts, mainly still aluminum, is most of our material. Um, but we have several customers that are just straight build to print. We do a little bit of assembly work internally on those as well. And then separately, we'll get customers that they're asking for an entire assembly of a fuselage that we've got to come up with all of the tooling design, all of the manufacturing process, fixturing to hold that, and do a lot of carbon CNC trimming as well.
hmm.
So it kind of
Right.
bounces back and forth between departments.
I was going to ask about trimming of composites. So you must have machines that are specialized, focused on metal, maybe
Hmm.
smaller, and then some bigger, more router, 5-axis type things that are due for trimming big
Right.
composite
We
parts.
we've got a handful of UMCs that are dry for kind of smaller composite parts,
Hmm.
kind of weird materials that need to be dry machined. And then we have some larger on-screwed. We've got a 40-foot bed on-screwed 5-axis gantry
Okay.
machine.
The
So
40 foot. You don't see those every day.
no, we
That's
when we
fun.
purchased it, we didn't have a whole lot of work that needed that type of machine, but we quickly grew into it's running all day, every day, weekends, very large 30-foot, MDF fuselage tools that we
Hmm.
run on it quite often. We've got some very high precision Kenichi machines as well that do carbon trimming on the
Hmm.
dry side. So
Kanichi. Where are
we
those built? Where in the world are those made? Those
Taiwan,
Taiwan. Okay.
they're they're very cost effective for the accuracy that you get. They're very effective for what we need to do.
That's awesome.
So we probably have around 10 dedicated dry machines, and probably around 40, wet cutting machines.
Okay, so about 50 CNC machines in total.
Yeah.
And how the distribution of your employees, how many are in the machine shop side versus the composite manufacturing side?
I would say that, about maybe a quarter, of the company is in the machine shop directly,
Mhm.
which, if you do the math, is not nearly as many CNC machines as we have. So we do a lot of lights out, runtime.
I was gonna
Um,
ask. Yeah.
I would roughly a third of our machines are running after we shut the doors at night, and
Nice.
probably a third of those machines are building parts that we've never machined before. So we're doing a lot of palletized systems,
Mhm.
a lot of kind of checks and balances throughout the day. But one thing Dave and Penny have been very adamant about is seeing their employees go home and spend the evening with their families. So we stick
So good.
to one shift, and we're going to hold on to that as long as we can. They're adamant, nobody works 7 days a week. You got to take a
Mhm.
minimum of one day off, and preferably
Sure.
two. And so a lot of our guys will come in pretty early in the days, get their machines going. They might be running 2, 3 machines, get
Mhm.
them set up and be able to run all through the evening, come in, have 1 finished part, or maybe they've got 1,000 finished parts depending on the size and machine that
Mhm.
they're running.
Mhm. Wild. And, are you guys pretty Haas heavy on the shop?
We
On
were in the
the
beginning.
wet side? Okay, but not
Um,
anymore?
no, that was kind of our start out, machine.
Mhm. Mhm.
Our, shop supervisor at the time came from Haas, knew the machines very well. They were
Mm.
capable for what we needed to do, and we just outgrew the accuracy that they could hold.
Sure.
We went to extreme lengths of cutting out concrete floors, pouring in 4-foot foundations just to get the machines as accurate as we could, and finally we decided we had to go a different direction, and
Mhm.
so we've switched to Matsuras a lot for
Oh,
our
nice.
smaller envelope,
Yep.
roughly uh 2-foot cube or so worth of
Mhm.
machine envelope. And then we have recently, in the last few years, brought on several Kenichi Kin compact and Linmax machines for our
Mm.
much larger sized envelopes. So those are
Okay.
roughly 3 meters by 2 meter envelope, 3 by 3. Um, so
Yeah, those are
much
big.
much
That's
larger
big. Yeah.
capabilities, very high accuracy, and then, of course, we've got a few, Onsrud as well that, not quite as accurate, but, great for the dry, carbon
Mhm.
trimming and MDF, very dusty, environments.
Okay. Yeah. So are the Metsuras just a lot of the pallet pool systems? Um,
Correct. Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I've
Pretty
heard that
much.
a large proportion of all Metsuras come with the pallet systems on them. Like, people are not buying standalone machines very much from Metsura.
Nope. When you can put on an 18 palletized system and be able to machine several parts, all unique, all different programs, and come in, from a Friday to a Monday and
It's so
have
awesome.
several hours of work being completed, it's very, very
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah. So, I'm just curious to maybe dwell on that one for a second longer. What are some of the tips and tricks you've learned to make building a brand new part number unattended with good outcomes, good success? That's a very unique challenge.
Um, a lot of it is thinking, fixturing, how we're
Mhm.
holding on to a part. We make a lot of parts um, that I would say is almost unconventionally. We make milled parts on a lathe, for instance,
Mhm.
that can be fully completed that would have previously been a 2 or 3 op
Right.
milled part. We do a lot of window style fixtured parts on our robotic brothers
Yep.
that we can machine from both sides, come in, and it's just got a few tabs you've got to knock
Yep.
out.
Yep.
So that's been a very drastic change just in my time being here of what normally would have been a 3 axis milled part is machine completely different for
Mhm.
lights out unattended.
Okay. And then probably fairly standardized tooling. You know, each machine has a certain set of tools, and you just try to make them work best you can across all the different part numbers, even if it's not quite as optimal on the cycle time. But that, in the grand scheme, that doesn't really matter when you're getting all that unattended time.
Right. That's fairly accurate, depending on what size of order we see.
That would
We're
make sense. Yeah.
fairly small quantities. I'm not sure what our average part size is, but probably less than 10 on quantity. But we
For a work
may
order quantity. Yeah.
correct, but we may have some that are 10,000 part orders for some of our larger production.
Yeah.
So cycle time, we've optimized taking out a few seconds here and there from
Of
our
course.
programs. Cycle
Yeah.
chain, tool changes. If we can avoid a tool change, it takes out a lot of time. So we've went through and reprogrammed some of especially our carbon trim parts on
Mhm.
different machines, seeing what we can take out just on on the cycle time, and a few minutes adds up very quickly.
It's kinda wild when you crunch the numbers and do the math. It's like, "Yeah, if we can save 38 seconds on this, we're gonna
Mhm.
cut 4 days off the end of this job," you know? So, yeah, that's time well spent when you have the volume to justify it.
It is.
So when you guys first, went from paper travelers and presumably paper drawings and all that to, no paper, or very more minimal. What was that transition like for the guys on the floor?
Um, it I'll say it was more difficult than I expected. We're a fairly young shop, but
Hmm.
we're also a fairly conservative shop. The
Mm.
the guys here aren't the most, technology savvy guys. Most of them don't even like to carry around a cell phone if they don't have to. So
Okay.
switching to fully electronic was quite a culture shock. But we did fairly well. It's very beneficial when you can revise a drawing and send it out. They can pull it up, and you don't have to worry about the printed drawing they had from this morning is still floating around and is no longer current. They've got
Yeah.
the most current information always at their fingertips. That's what they're pulling up every time that they access something within ProShop.
Hmm.
So that's been really the best part is making sure that they've always got the most up-to-date information, and we tried to drive home we shouldn't be printing out documents, really, unless it's kind of just an information traveler. It has no real
Right.
specific
Yeah.
details. Drawing should be all brought up every time that you're looking at something to make sure you have the latest and greatest, and um, we don't have the old revisions floating around throughout the shop.
Did you ever recall having an issue, where someone did, previously had the wrong drawing, made something wrong, or even lost the traveler and you lost that chain of traceability?
We still have some parts in our MRB cage that we know are good parts, but we don't have the information to back it up.
Oh,
Uh,
man.
so those get quarantined. But
Mhm.
sometimes they turn into some test parts or something along those lines. So we've had those, cases that we've made incorrect revisions, just not getting the latest, drawing or not fast enough, I'll say.
Right.
We've we're in the prototype world, so things change rapidly, and it might be the difference of an hour of getting a revision, and if you don't get out there, print out something new and hand it to the guy, he could, make
Mhm.
the wrong, trim operation. So having the ability as soon as we get something to communicate that to the shop has been, very, very influential.
Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, that's excellent. And then, how much of your work is repeat versus a brand new part number you've not seen before? Just rough percentages.
I would probably say about 50%.
Okay. Okay. So on the things that you do know repeat, how are you documenting what the setup looks like? What the list of tools should be, what fixture you need, that sort of thing.
So we still try to document that. Most of our jobs, we don't know if they're going to be repeat in the future or not.
Sure.
Our hope is that they will be. So we'll take pictures of the setup. We can upload those into the ProShop setup. Take some notes. Any process improvement that we come along after we built them. We're not going to go back and edit programming to
Hmm.
fix something, but we'll add it to our process notes for the next guy whenever, especially from the quoting side, that it might
Hmm.
have taken us, an extra hour to build it this way, but if we change it and we want to requote it in the future. So all those are more notes, kind of
Hmm.
added to the part level,
Yep.
than they
Yeah.
are really editing what tooling, what setup, all of the, written documentation, written description. We don't really put in the effort for anything that is not a guaranteed, remake in the
Hmm.
future.
Sure. And what kind of impact has that had to have that sort of tighter loop of feedback from the shop floor of like, hey, if we fixtured it this way, that would be better, or, a better cutting tool, or, I know a lot of times in many shops, there's a bit of a disconnect between the machinist making things and what the shop knows, or what the office, actually gets back to inform their next quote, or how to just quote better in general. Has that been pretty positive to have that tighter loop?
It is very, positive. Quoting side, a customer comes back, they're always looking for a cheaper price, hoping to get it faster. And if you review through the time tracking and could see issues that arose as if we have a suggestion from a machinist, we could usually be able to figure out how do we bring that cost down,
Hmm.
or did did we have to remake this part more than once because a tool broke or, anything along those lines? So, just as much as the process improvement notes, really the time tracking notes is the most beneficial. That's where a lot of information gets put in of why it might have taken somebody longer than we had initially quoted or how we can improve it in the future and reduce some of our cycle time.
Yeah. So that what is that field called? The spent doing what
Mhm.
field? The notes field for every time tracking. So in your company, those are fairly rich with
The very
information.
rich. We've spent a lot of time trying to drive home that it's not for you to say you machined this part. It's for you to give some details of what you did, and if it didn't match the expected time to take you, w-
Hmm.
why not? What can you do to help that out in the future? Did you have a tool break? Did you have a machine shut off or lose power? Anything along those lines that we can go in as estimators, and put some more detail to it and try to firm up our quotes. Um, you know, uh, Estimating is a lot of my job, and
Mm,
what I
okay.
do a majority of the time is find a similar part. I look for something that we built as close to what I can get. I review some of the time tracking and put together that backstory almost more than trying to see what the programming and cycle time is going to be to machine something.
Right.
It's some of that history of other parts is usually more beneficial.
Okay. Well, I am super excited to have you see some of the stuff that's coming, which, as of the date that this releases, will have been already well announced the month before. But yeah, we have some stuff coming that's going to make your job much more easy to reveal and sort of bring to the surface insights that may be buried in time tracking notes and other places that will just like, it's like, hey, Cody, check this out. This is what you
Yeah.
should pay attention to from previous jobs. So
I would
it's,
appreciate that.
yeah, there's some really, really exciting stuff coming. So very cool. Very interesting. Now, when did you personally get involved in the estimating side? Uh,
I would say I've probably been on that side for about 8 years or so, kind of more and
oh, so
more,
most, so after you found and implemented ProShop, you kind of went right into that side of things.
yep, digging through the details. I've gained a lot of respect and just experience of what it really takes to build a part throughout the shop. What kind of features increase or decrease the cost of parts, and
Hmm.
that's a little bit of what my degree and kind of background was in before was just construction management and
Hmm.
estimating, and
Hmm.
a lot of that drives to this. So, my title now is more of a program manager. It's more to deal directly with the customers, just from the quoting side to getting it
Hmm.
released in our
Hmm.
shop. So I spend most of my days in the estimating tabs and the quoting tabs and time tracking, bringing, some of that information into Excel or anything that I
Hmm.
can do to help manipulate it as needed.
Right. Okay. Do you guys do any kind of machine monitoring there at
We do.
Yosh?
Um,
Okay.
not quite sure how many, machines that we have on Datanomics. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
estimate around 20, 25.
Okay.
Any machines that we run throughout the night, we like to have on Datanomics.
Sure.
Our shop manager actually sends us a report every week that shows how many hours each machine ran throughout the week, how many was on weekends per
Mm-hmm.
day, hours that it was paused versus actually not running, and kind of notes. And we do a lot with our machine monitoring to track how much utilization we're really seeing out of some of our machines.
Very cool. Yep. It's critical stuff, especially with that unattended running time, to know exactly what happened when no one was sitting there watching it.
Mhm.
So that's excellent. Does that also help with um the getting the actual cycle times, for things as you are informing new quotes in the future?
It does. That's usually the kind of gauge of the gut reaction. We might not go to every detail of actually programming something, but we can look to see similar, parts that we've ran, when you're machining a 35-foot fuselage tool, it's hard to estimate how long that's
Mhm.
really gonna take on runtime,
Absolutely.
how long the machine was paused just to get the tooling onto the bed, aligned, and factoring all of that in, the machine runtime is it might just be a small portion of it.
Understood.
So we use that data quite a bit across the board.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Very good. Um, you mentioned that you have started to really lean into some of the training aspects of ProShop and the record keeping for that, and presumably as tied into your QMS. You guys are AS9100 certified, I presume.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Can you just elaborate a little bit about how you're using that part of the system?
We used to kind of just do trainings across the board, all paper documents. It was very difficult to see who had actually been trained, who needed training, and now we're getting lists and schedules of who is required to have the trainings. And that has improved tremendously, even just over the last few years. We
Mm-hmm.
put a lot of effort into updating some of our trainings. They were a little bit out of date, and we're regularly getting pinged almost once a week of, here's the trainings that are outstanding for your department, and making sure our guys are going through them. And we have to as we grow employees. We don't have that tribal knowledge anymore. We
Mm-hmm.
can't go and ask Jim, at the next machine over, how'd you do this one the last time? We have to put in a lot of our efforts into startup training, how we're training our guys for the first 6 months that they're here. Not just on a part level, but as general, this is the process of what information needs to go through the system. Here's how you manage your work order. Here's how you get the data to build your part, the information that we have to have for traceability, all of that. And we can see when somebody was trained, and we actually track that for the first 3 months that they're here too. Is did you get trained and did you follow it properly? And we can kind of extend their probation period to make sure that we're following everything, and that they're held accountable. I
Mm.
would say is probably the biggest thing. But they also have the ability of, if they have a question, they don't have to go and bother, the veteran down the road and ask them how to do something simple. They can go to their training module, they can review it, see it, because it might have been, a few months since they've done something. So,
Sure.
that has been a pretty big deal of guys making sure, that they're following the process correctly. I know a lot of shops, and we are one of them, that would get into, well, this guy did it a little bit different, and he trained this guy who does it a little bit different, and
Mhm.
before you know it, the whole process is out of whack, and you kind of have to start over, retraining guys that might have already been building the part for several months, and there's
Mhm.
just some things that they're missing.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here is and it totally makes sense when you're 170 people keeping track of who needs training and what's expiring and there's training related to your AS9100 compliance, and
Right,
there's training related to actually how you make parts. And
right.
so those are kind of some overlap for sure, but kind of separate things. And
Mhm.
you're finding success, just really systematizing it in both aspects of making
Right.
parts and compliance. Yeah, that's good. Do you when you have interns, do they immediately get some training records or not until they're a full-time employee?
We train anybody, that comes here day one. They'll go through some kind of minimal trainings, and depending on which department, a lot of our interns will hit up every department over the summer. So
Oh,
we don't
super
want
cool.
to put them through 2 weeks of layup training when they're only going to be in there for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So depending on where they're going to land, we'll tailor how we handle our trainings. But everybody does get some form of training as soon as they come on site, especially now with the CMMC. We have to have a lot of security trainings right off the bat.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that topic. Where are you guys on your journey with a Spurs score or an actual certification or what have you?
Yeah, so our gap assessment has been completed. We're targeting the end of 2026 to be level two
Nice.
certified.
Very
So
good.
we're on track. The scope continues to grow.
I
It
can
seems like
believe it.
every time we look into what needs to be done, we find a new aspect we didn't know about the day before, and we have to figure out how we're going to handle that security level.
Mhm.
It's been an ever-ending challenge that I don't think anybody understands the scope of it until you're in the middle of, of doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I was, just on with a customer who, has a 110 score, and I think they're going for their audit in, like, July or August or something like that. Yeah, and it's taken a full 24 months,
Mhm.
just dedicated work, full-time employee plus an assistant, plus, a little bit of consulting as well.
Yep.
Um, and they're a 60-person shop, not a 160-person shop. So yeah, that's changing the landscape for sure.
Mhm.
It's good that you guys are that far ahead on it. That's wonderful.
Something that, we're still working to implement and figure out the right level is the access control, with the
Mhm.
trainings. That's,
Mhm.
been a big part of, to get CMMC making sure our guys are trained on the information that they are able to handle, and getting that level correct. It's still a work in progress, but, it's something that is a big change for us. A lot of guys usually just had access to stuff that they didn't necessarily need. They might use once every
Mhm.
6 months or a year,
Mhm.
um, or even never. But now we're locking that down, trying to control what information they have access to. Not that we're preventing them from it, but if
Mhm.
something were to happen, we want to make sure to minimize that threat as much as possible.
Sure.
So anything that they're not trained to and don't deal with daily, they're just automatically locked out of.
Yep. Yeah, that sort of zero trust. Um, so I'm curious, you say ask access control. There's the CMMC section or the NIST, 800 section for access control. And then ProShop has training access control built into the
Right.
training module where you can lock out certain things that you can do. And obviously you can tailor, every module and who has access to what, read access. Um, are those sort of converging where you're using some of our features to help meet
Right.
the access control from the NIST standard?
That is what we're still kind of working on of how in depth we want to go with that.
Yep.
And it allows us if a process does change, say creating an NCR, we've kind of tailored that a little bit that we want to make sure guys go back through training. They might not have created an NCR for a year.
Mm,
Engineer, for example, that we lock them back out until they've completed the training process again. So
mhm,
we make sure that they're putting in the information, they're tracking it correctly, and so that's been something we didn't implement for the first 6, 7 years that we've
mhm,
had ProShop, and it's just slowly came on over the last year or two. And then with
mm.
the CMMC guidelines, that's really ramped up our effort of okay, we need to make sure that we're locking down everything as much as we can, and we want to implement, ProShop's features to be able to do that.
Are you guys using the classifications module and training access control features
N
too?
Wait, no, we're not.
Okay. Well, we should have our team chat with you about those because that's a key part of how that all works and how you can, limit who has access to what in terms of
Mhm,
folders or files or classifications. And that has historically been for a few years now all your file attachments for
mhm,
classifications, but it's now or just being released for all records. So you could have a record that is tagged as CUI, for example, and if you don't have someone trained or or doesn't have access to CUI, they can't actually click into that record and see anything. So,
right,
and you can create your own classifications. You can segment by departments or individual people or certain roles in the company. And so I think it could be a pretty critical aspect of
mhm.
making sure your access control for NIST is compliant. So yeah, we should definitely make sure we catch up with someone on our team to maybe share exactly how that all works
Yeah.
after we wrap up here. So which we should do about now because it's been close to an hour. So Cody, this has been a really interesting. It's fun. I haven't tied in with you guys very much since the early days, many years ago.
Mm.
Hear about your twin daughters was fun before we hit record, and all the amazing growth you guys have had at Flying S. And I really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing the amazing, cool stuff you're doing, even though you can't talk about some of it. So, um, but that always means you're doing really interesting, fun things. So, if people want to learn more about Flying S and take advantage of the incredible vertically integrated services you guys offer, which is probably unique and probably why you're growing so fast. Where would you direct them?
Our website, flying-s.com. That's a limited amount of information we can give out to the public. And we do have some emails listed on that website that you can
Okay.
contact, jobs at flying-s.com if you'd like to apply. Maybe set up some public tours.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of community outreach, bringing in schools of younger ages just to learn about the manufacturing process, aerospace in general.
Yeah.
Our goal is to get everybody interested in airplanes that we can, and usually that doesn't take too much convincing.
I know. And your LinkedIn profile is you sitting in an airplane. Did you become a pilot after you started here, or were
I
you
did.
already into that?
Flying S is routinely sent anybody to ground school that would like to go, and they'll pay for the books. You pay for the training class,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went through ground school in about 2017, I believe, and then started flight training in 2020. So I've had my license for a little over 5 or 6 years now.
Okay. How often do you get up in the skies?
Not as often as I like. I did purchase an airplane last year, so I would have
Oh
thought I
wow.
could do a lot more flying, but it seems like the airplane wasn't the issue, it's the time.
Yeah, I know you're a busy man. So well, Cody, thank you for carving out an hour of your very busy schedule to chat with me. I really appreciate it, and yeah, it was a fun to learn more about what you guys are doing there. Appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing.
Appreciate you asking me to come on. This is
You
good.
bet. All right, see you around, man. Thank
Thanks.
you.